All right, ladies and gentlemen, good day. My name is Fede. Fede Hernandez from the Rum Lab. I have this light in the back of me that makes me look like I have this powerful aura, but I don't. It's just the rum coming out of my blood. But first of all, thank you everybody for joining us. I see a good amount of people already active. Really quickly, for those who are here for the first time, welcome to Savvy and welcome to the Rum Lab channel. We have to your right, and I see already some activities happening. You have the chat box where you can write any comments or activities. If you have any questions during today's live stream, make sure to write them right below where it says ask questions. If you're seeing us right now on Facebook, come on to zavvy.co so you can participate from the Q&A. But if you're happy and relaxed on Facebook or YouTube, you can stay there too. We do ask everybody to share the event. Today's agenda is going to be around 30-40 minutes, talking about today's main presentation, 1 or 2 minutes contact information, and then yes, we go to a rum o'clock, and I got some rum. And let's deep dive. Today's main topic is Rum Reimagined. We have our guest, Marc Farrell, who's the founder and CEO of 10 to 1 Rum. He actually came out today on the Rum Lab, or yesterday on the rumlab.com as the interview of the week. I want to show this nice little video. As you log into the rumlab.com, you can click on, see all the answers that Marc Farrell replied to. It's really interesting. There's Marc has, at the age of 16, he had graduated and was already in MIT, and then went to Cambridge, and then went to Harvard. And I think he's done more than in my entire life, or probably 2 of my generations. So it's super interesting. But enough said. Let's bring Marc here. He's our main guest today. Hi, Marc.
Hey, what's happening? Good to see you, man.
I'm doing good. I'm excited. Thank you for being here and joining us today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. Super excited to chat a little bit.
I know, Marc, that you come from a background from living on the Pacific Northwest, and I actually live here in Seattle. I'm not in Seattle today. I am in Boston. I'm doing like a small tour throughout the East Coast, visiting some cool rum bars and rum restaurants. I wish I could have seen you, but as I'm going south, you're going north.
Exactly.
Seattle is beautiful. How was your experience living in Seattle?
Yeah, I was I've lived in and around the U.S. for the better part of the last 20 years now. A bunch of time actually in Boston initially. I moved to New York in 2010, lived there for 5 years, then moved to Seattle. I was there from 2016 till the end of 2018 before moving back to New York. But yeah, I had a really cool stint up in the Pacific Northwest. Obviously, a very different rhythm and different way of life from what you might experience in New York or elsewhere on the East Coast. But no, it was a very nice sort of balancing balancing experience from my time in New York previously. Experience the outdoors, different pace of life. Actually, not to be super cliche, but actually got into yoga when I moved west, and that was actually a really awesome experience. I still practice pretty regularly now as well. It's one of my opportunities to kind of like find some calm during the course of the day. Really cool food scene and drink scene out there too. So yeah, loved my little Seattle stint.
I'm sure you went to Roomba.
Yeah. I mean, those guys knew my face very, very well because I was always posted up at Roomba. I lived on that hill, like between Pike and Pine. For anybody who happens to be tuning in, who's been to Seattle or lives in Seattle, so I was probably 4 blocks away from Roomba. So I would just cruise down the hill, pop in for a couple of drams, sit at the bar, talk to the guys there. In particular, I mean, because this was right as I was starting to develop the concept of 10 to 1 also, so when people talk to me a bit about how I develop the blends and how you want to position the rums, those Roomba trips are actually pretty instrumental. Some really, really amazing experts on the spirit and on all spirits that you would find there.
The no, Roomba's a special place. And Tacoma, right? You got Jason that has a great rum bar in Tacoma. Do you went to those or no?
No, I don't think so. I haven't got a chance to go to the rum bar in Tacoma.
Yeah. Like next time if you come to Seattle, please call me and then we'll hang out together. But before we keep on talking about the U.S., let's talk about you. If you can give us a little bit intro of who you are, and and give us an idea on how you got involved into the rum industry.
Yeah, sure, sure. Happy to. Marc Farrell, founder of 10 to 1 Rum. I know you already mentioned that. Born and raised in Trinidad and Tobago, and that's obviously a very critical part of the story for a number of reasons. Number one, actually, I'm wrapping up. This is a T-shirt from a really talented young designer called Levi Marcus. He makes these nation tees. So that is the island of Trinidad and Tobago. You see on my T-shirt there. So very proud of my culture, where I'm from and what that's done to shape me on an individual level. Certainly, it plays a lot into the story of 10 to 1 as well, because rum is such an integral part of our fabric, our scene. Whether you're thinking about Trinidad or thinking about the Caribbean more broadly, right? You could be talking about Jamaica or Barbados or St. Lucia or Puerto Rico or any of these other islands as well. And for me, I always saw such a massive difference between the way that I knew rum culture, Caribbean culture, where I grew up, versus the way that I often saw it being brought to life here in market in the US. I feel like for a lot of consumers in this market, they haven't always embraced rum with the same enthusiasm and the same reverence as they might with whiskey or even a tequila, mezcal, gin, etc. more recently. And so really a big part of the inspiration for creating 10 to 1 was to bring some of that origin story to bear in this market. I would love for us to kind of get to a place where people, I think can embrace 10 to 1 and embrace rum more broadly as a really elevated, really premium, really versatile spirit in its own right. And I think can begin to see a different side of storytelling, a different cultural lens, a different narrative on the category through some of the work that we're trying to do as well.
Are any of your family members involved in the rum industry in Trinidad and Tobago, or no? Or they just like to drink rum?
No prior professional experience in rum. Though, of course, one thing I always tell people is, rum plays a role in so many of those moments of celebration for us, right? Whether it's, family, group of friends, you come down to Trinidad for carnival or something like that. And so certainly a lot of experience celebrating with it, drinking it. I think all the different Caribbean islands have very friendly or not so friendly rivalries around whose rum is best. So there's all the points of comparison as well. And so yeah, that's more where the experience comes from. It's not like my dad was a master distiller at Angostura or anything like that. No.
So you study high school in Trinidad, and you graduated at the age of 15 then, or like 15, 16 to go to MIT at age of 16?
Yeah. So yeah, I moved to the US when I was 16 to go to MIT. Yeah. So I graduated from high school then.
And is that typical? So there's a lot of amazing professionals in Trinidad and Tobago, right? But being so young, is that typical? That you play sports, or you were just like very focused on like studies and that you propel so fast in the world of education to go to MIT so young?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. I think it's pretty atypical. I mean, people in Trinidad finish high school at the same age as they would here, sort of 18, 19 when they go to college. So I was 2 to 3 years younger than my classmates, which has kind of always been the case. So to me, it wasn't that big of a surprise or an adjustment going that young, but I know it used to raise a few eyebrows then, and it still does now many years later. In terms of focus on the academics, if you ask my parents that question, they would say I wasn't nearly as focused as they wanted me to be. You asked about sports. I'm a massive sports fan, right? Like my dream in life was actually to be a professional athlete.
No, really, no.
I played a ton of football growing up, soccer, growing
Yeah,
up in
yeah.
Trinidad. Played basketball in high school and also in college as well. I played at Cambridge for a few years too. So cricket, track, tennis, etc. So no, the sports thing was really where I would have loved to focus. But I'm 6'2.5". I never grew to be 6'6" the way that I dreamed, like Michael Jordan. I can run pretty fast, but I'm not Usain Bolt. So ultimately, kind of heading to MIT to get the little chemical engineering degree was sort of the path that was charted for me, right? That's kind of how it worked out.
And then you ended up dating people that were older than you all your life. I imagine.
I did. That is true. That is true, and it's worked its way to some complexes that I have over time. But because like obviously, well, not obviously, but girls tend to sort of mature faster than boys do. I mean, I think that's even in your 30s, you find that's still true, right? We're all a little bit immature, and so you can imagine when you're like a 14-year-old kid in high school and all the girls are 16 or 17, right? They look at you like you're a little child, right? In fact, I was still 5'3". By my sophomore year of high school, I was still 5'3". I grew 10 inches in a year from sophomore to junior year. So I really did look like a little kid for a long time, which wasn't amazing the dating life then, but we found a way to bounce back since, I guess.
I just want Mark. I'm 5'6". If you're saying that 5'6" is short, I'm offended.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I said 5'3" was short. 5'6", perfectly good height. Pretty good height.
No, just kidding. We're from Puerto Rico. We're short in Puerto Rico. But let's start talking about rum a little bit. And I think we can go back and forth. Then so you said you did a little bit of your research using or going to Roomba, which is interesting. I mean, imagine you had this passion of putting in starting maybe with a rum from Trinidad, but at the same time, there's so many great things, and you went with blends. You have two expressions that you started with, white Caribbean rum, and then you have the Caribbean white rum, and then you have the Caribbean dark rum. I'm gonna get my bottle because I do want to try and drink with you as we start mesmerizing about this great spirit. I'll be back 1 second.
Yeah. Sure. Do your thing. Excited for you to try it.
Oh well, I cheated last night, so it's the bottle of rum that I took on my trip right now, and I drank quite a bit of it.
You made some progress. Well, so listen. So when the people ask you if the rum is a good rum, I think you could just hold that bottle and let them know what progress looks like, what progress feels like, right?
Well, I was the brand ambassador of another brand, and the general manager of a rum bar in Puerto Rico, and they're like, "Oh my God, this rum is delicious!" And they just kept on taking more and more. I'm like, "Wait, I'm gonna run out of rum at this rate, guys."
You guys can have me go on this podcast tomorrow with an empty bottle. That wouldn't make any sense, right? So
exactly.
I'm glad they saved a little bit for you, which is great. But to go back to your question, I mean, of course, I'm from Trinidad. I want, to kind of tell our origin story and our cultural story as a part of what we do. But I've actually thought of this much more as a vision for a vehicle for Caribbean storytelling and for Caribbean rum. Actually, in a lot of ways, I did not want to be a Trinidadian, creating a Trinidadian rum per se. I think there's so much beauty if you look at the category in terms of the different distillation methods. Like you look at a pot still Jamaican rum versus a column in Trinidad or elsewhere. If you look at the different provenances, the different terroirs, right? The soil composition. Again, if I go sort of like almost north to south, east to west, if I look at Trinidad, all the way in the south of the archipelago, all the way up to Jamaica, has bauxite and things like that. The way that affects your composition of your soil, and hence like the way it makes its way through the product. There's so much variety that you can sort of pull down into the category based on where you travel throughout the region. So I think for us, there was a lot of value in trying to bring some of those elements to life through a single blend, right? So we have two expressions that you mentioned. You have the dark one, so I'll describe that first, and we can talk about the white. Now, with dark rum, it's a blend from 4 countries: Trinidad, Barbados, Jamaica, and the Dominican Republic. Uh, 3 of those rums are, yep, that's your bottle. Yep, that's
Yeah.
exactly. 3 of those bottles are column still rum. Sorry, not 3 bottles. 3 of those rums are column still rums. The exception being the Jamaica and a little bit of high ester, unaged pot still rum. And I think what that does is you're there sipping. What that does on the nose and on the palate to me has been a bit of a revelation. The rums are aged in ex-bourbon barrels. We love bringing that up in this market in the US in particular, because we think this idea of building bridges to consumers in other categories makes a massive difference, right? So I'm not just trying to capture the passionate rum drinker today. I'm saying to you, if you love a good whiskey or certainly a good bourbon, right? You're gonna fall in love with some of the characteristic notes of this rum. On the nose, you're gonna get a little bit of baking spice, a little bit of cooked fruit. I was like gonna say something warm and familiar from Grandma's Kitchen. That's a very sort of warm, inviting nose to it for sure. A little bit of that banana, a little bit of that ester that comes through from that Jamaican pot still. On the palate, when you go ahead and taste it, you'll pick up some of those notes, but you're certainly going to build on top of it some of the notes from the barrel aging, a little bit of cedar, a little bit of vanilla, a little bit of tobacco, kind of a worn leather, and it has a really great body to the rum. That to me is super important. Moderate acidity, very well balanced, and actually a little dry on the finish. That was done deliberately because I think for a lot of consumers in this market, there's this expectation that rum is cloying, right? Like kind of coating, sugar bomb, overly sweet. I think we wanted to combat a little bit of that perception, a little bit of that notion. And so that little bit of dryness, that little bit of umami-ness you get as you taste the rum, I think makes a massive difference. You want something that people are curious to kind of dive back into and have a second sip of, right? Have a second taste. So really proud of what we created with the dark rum. If you ask me to describe that rum in a single word, the word I always use is versatile. And this for me, when I was developing, when I was drinking at Roomba or hanging out with my family in Trinidad or just thinking about what I would typically enjoy in New York was really, really important. I think for us, we want to have something that you could enjoy on its own. Like that rum is excellent the way you're drinking it right now, right? Neat on the rocks. If you want to lengthen it, you could certainly, add a little bit of soda water or coconut water as a mixer. Fundamentally, we try to shift less like not so much into the rum and coke space, but more like soda water, tonic water, coconut water, right? But it can also play in the craft cocktail game. I want that to be a rum that can elevate your cocktails, whether you're creating an old fashioned. That rum old fashioned is my single favorite cocktail with 10-1, by the way. An old fashioned, Manhattan, Negroni. Really, there's a whole host that you can use that rum for as well. And so that versatility to me is really important, And with our white rum, really quickly, I would say that I always tell people that the white rum is not the white version of the dark rum or vice versa. They're actually different rums, different blends with different intention behind them. The white rum of ours is a blend of rum from Jamaica. It's Jamaican pot still rum alongside Dominican column still rum. And as you would know, I know you're a fellow rum nerd, right? A lot of us love Jamaican rums, big, bold, funky, high proof. Really kind of take you on a journey. But I found again that in a lot of cases, those rums don't feel like they're very accessible to the everyday consumer. And so what we aspire to do with our white rum was to bring some of those notes, bring some of those elements, bring some of that intrigue to bear, but also do it in a way that feels like it feels relatively accessible to an everyday consumer. And so I think that marriage of the Jamaican pot still alongside the Dominican column still certainly accomplishes that. The rum is at 90 proof, so it lives at higher proof for sure, in part because the rum has really excellent body. Stands up incredibly well, in a daiquiri. Actually, a white rum Negroni is amazing also. And we knew that was going to be important if you want to kind of play again in that craft cocktail space, but it's not so high of a proof as to truly be overpowering and not allow a consumer to really engage with it. So the white rum, you could also drink, rocks, a little lime wedge or grapefruit wedge, splash of soda water,